my monkey face. Yeah. So, we're on to another week, another take a college class course with me review. Course and class are basically the same things. I do that a lot. I'll use very similar words, very close, very parallel to each other. I'm an English minor and I cannot think of the right word with the same adjectives or... No? Yes? Anyway, don't know what that was. But okay, so this is week, and this pillow is driving me crazy. Okay, this is week 8. Week 8. I had to look down at the computer screen to see, oh hey, this document says in it, week 8. But okay, this was a quieter week, a slower week. I guess because it was so quiet, it actually flew by. There just wasn't much to do, so I could focus on other things, work on other things in my life, just do more me time, just work on just independent, introverted, awesome things and stuff, like my writing and just chilling. So not much in the way of homework and assignments. So basically I want to go over draft 1 and draft 2, yes, of this essay. This is essay number 2. I'll go over the 2 drafts. Basically, I'll tell you about some of the changes, and then I'll just like read off draft 2, which is about 4.5, 5-ish pages. So yeah. But first, a cute little story time, a little thing. Side note, so I was talking to my nephew Cash the other day just about my homework assignments, and I'll joke with him and with my family, just like randomly out of the blue, like, hey, who wants to do my homework for me? Anyone? Any takers? Any volunteers? Anybody want to help me out? It's free to do it, you know? So then he comments the other day after I ask him that, and he's like, why don't you just tell your teacher, your instructor, that, you know, your dog ate your laptop? And I just thought that was really cute, so had to share that. But okay, so this paper is called the TBA. And what happened this week was basically Tuesday was a peer review, and then Saturday, which was yesterday, was also peer review for draft 2. And then it was Thursday, if that makes sense, when draft 2 was due. So last week was draft 1, and I did not go into depth or detail regarding that assignment because I wanted to leave you in suspense and wait on it, and that just had to be a shorter vlog. But yeah, so essentially Tuesday peer review, yesterday peer review, Thursday, the middle of the week, was basically draft 2, if that makes sense. Hope I got those days and dates right. And I'm like sweating bullets because this is fleece, and I got my nice cool socks on. They're not cool socks, they're really hot. And then sweats. But it's a tradition, I have to wear sweats and then a minimal face look for this series. Don't know why, but I started it and it happened and I just have to continue. Excuse me, the pattern. Excuse me again, I'm so gross. Okay. So, basically, my short story, my analysis, my essay is regarding and almost like a response to, analysis of, the poem Everyday Use, which is by Alice Walker, and I titled it Competition and Love in Everyday Use. So what happened was, you will hear me talk about this, just like as I read it off, that I switched my introduction and my conclusion around. I just switched those paragraphs, and then I included the end of paragraph 1 into the conclusion, if that makes sense, to like tie them in. And I think that it can make for a very strong paper or assignment. Just the fact that, hey, I am rephrasing or paraphrasing or word for word, copy paste, using the same line, the same thoughts. I think that can be really strong, and then it can really help to sum up and emphasize thoughts. So essentially I did that, and then just like skimming and comparing Let's see. So that paragraph is the same, just like skimming over it. What else? So that is also the same. So far it's basically the same thing. Not a lot of changes were made, really. I know that I did add in more of a summary, and I didn't include that before, and I found out that that can be really helpful. These people, these readers, whether they be for peer review or the actual teacher themselves, they probably don't have time, nor do they really want to go back or go for the first time to the story. The short story, the poem, whatever your analysis is based on. So you kind of want to make it seem like they have already read the story. Like they read your words, they read your paper, and they think, hey, I'm understanding this, I'm able to follow. So yeah, that paragraph where my eyes are right now, I'm seeing that I did add on to that, and that paragraph is the same. And then that is how I ended it. Okay, so yeah, basically, I know that for my first paper for this class, and this is paper number 2, I just know that I really had to change and add a lot to my first paper for draft 2. That's what I remember happening, because I just didn't have enough information, as many thoughts as I probably should have or could have or wanted. So I really had to add to it for that other draft. And then for this one, this time around with this paper, it's different. Like I only had to basically change 2 things. Like I changed the intro and the conclusion, just changed where they were in the paper, just totally flopped. And then the other thing was I added the story, which is very, very important to know to do an analysis. And so I'm gonna stop rambling and ranting and talking about nothing and actually talk about something. Okay, so competition and love in everyday use. The short story Everyday Use tells a story about competition and love. One message that Alice Walker is trying to tell her readers is that competition and comparison steal love, and that they are things we face on the everyday. And a little side note, you have to be careful about how you address your audience, and whether you're using first person or referring to your audience, your readers, as we, us, they, you, if that makes sense. So while this story was written in 1973, and though the story takes place in the late 60s to early 70s, it can still greatly apply to lives today and the world of today. 1. Comparison and competition interrupts relationships, twisting and turning them to negativity and pain. 2. People want to feel loved, and it hurts when that love that we want isn't there. 3. Competitive thoughts and feelings and actions can always become resolved and mended, we just have to let it. Maggie, a main character in Everyday Use, is said to eye her sister with a mixture of envy and awe, from paragraph 2. The story continues, saying, she thinks her sister has held life always in the palm of one hand, that no is a word the world never learned to say to her. Also from paragraph 2. And I'm going to stop doing that because that's enough. But it helps me not stutter, and it helps you know that that's from the story itself. Okay, readers can assume that Maggie feels competitive towards her sister. The text also says that Maggie will be nervous until after her sister goes, which is from paragraph 2. This is evidence that Maggie feels that Dee, her older sister, is superior. Maggie feels so inferior compared to her sister that she often feels these feelings and thinks this way. It could be said that the comparison and competition between them, be it silent or loud, is an everyday use, something that the sisters live with each day, particularly and especially Maggie of the 2. And seeing the living, breathing competition, her sister Dee, must be a big trigger for Maggie's feeling this way. Human beings tend to be competitive. People compete and hold competitions in so many areas of life. With females, the competitive nature oftentimes stems from appearance. Maggie is hopeless in her appearance and is very ashamed of the burn scars down her arms and legs, again from paragraph 2. Symbolically speaking, Maggie deals with an internal scar, her appearance compared to her beautiful sisters. Beauty is very important in society. Society has made it this way. It is obvious that Maggie thinks that her sister is prettier than her. Appearance is something that a person sees every day. If the person is brave and confident enough to look into their face in the mirror. Maggie deeply struggles with self-esteem, and her older sister, seemingly perfect, is a constant reminder that she is very much imperfect. Comparison and competition often come related, as twins. And the sisters in everyday use practice competition every day. Maggie most of all. Their sisterly competition is in everyday use. And so you will notice that I tie in the title into every paragraph, like towards the end of almost every paragraph, if not every other paragraph. That's kind of my pattern. That's what I decided to do. So I used everyday use. And that just really ties in the title, and it brings my theory, my ideas in the light, if that makes sense. And it's a good reminder of what I believe and where I'm coming from through the paper in these words. And then another little side note off to the side thought. So you really want to have in parentheses at the end of your quotes and ending in a period, you want to have the paragraph, the number of the paragraph number. So like this next one I'm going to read comes from paragraph 13. So you have the quote, the line from the short story. I feel like a teacher, so cool. But then you have it in quotations, quote in quotations, and then in parentheses right after the last word in the last quotation mark, you have the number of the paragraph, where it comes from, followed by a period. End of parenthesis, period. Okay. In addition to Maggie not feeling beautiful or physically attractive, her own mother, Mama, thinks lowly of her as well. Her mother thinks like good looks and money, quickness passed her by, 13. However, it isn't until the end of the story where Mama's perspective towards her daughter changes from negative to positive. Mama is finally able to see, maybe it was with God's help and light, that her daughter Maggie is not the person who she always thought she was. Mama looked at Maggie hard and saw her as a different person, and it was because of her reaction to the issue with the quilts. People want approval, whether they can see it in themselves or not. Maggie is one of these people, and she dearly wants her mother's approval and love. She lives with her mother, and she is able to spend a lot of time with her, while her sister is not around much, nor sincerely involved in their lives. Readers can conclude that Maggie wants her mother's love and approval more than her sister just by the sheer fact that Maggie is timid and soft-spoken, totally unconfident, and living with her mother, though probably old enough to live on her own. Mama noticed something special about Maggie's persona while she joined in the conversation, more like confrontation, with the quilts at the end of the story. Mama noticed that she looked at her sister with something like fear, but she wasn't mad at her. From paragraph 75. This is when Mama's perspective changed. She saw her physically weak and frail daughter as a strong person, and this is when she learned to respect her daughter. Her respect for her older daughter, other daughter, Dee, had always been so giving, but Dee's visit back home to see her mother and sister changed the way Mama saw Dee. Dee's behavior was rude and unkind. Mama realized how much she appreciated Maggie in this moment. The love that Mama had gained for her daughter has become an everyday use. Maggie will feel happier and loved. Sisters Maggie and Dee quickly become competitive over something handed down through the family for generations, the special family quilt. When Dee gets excited over the quilts, Mama thinks to herself the quilts already belong to her, from 62. Then Dee says Maggie can't appreciate these quilts. She'd probably be backward enough to put them to everyday use, 66. Maggie knows how to quilt. The competition reaches a climax with the issue of the quilts. Dee asks, more like tells, Mama if she can have the family quilts. But Mama tells Dee that she had already promised them to Maggie, who would actually use them, and not have them simply for decor like Dee was planning. Maggie overhears the conversation and interrupts to say that her sister can have them. This is when a turning point hits, in which Mama sees Maggie in a different light, just like how it seemed she was seeing Dee for the first time. Mama insists that Maggie still have the quilts and Dee have different quilts, and I don't know what I mean. Not quite angry, more disappointed than angry, Dee tells her mother and sister that they don't understand. They don't understand their heritage. Then, just like that, Dee leaves, and that is the end of her visit. The story ends with the sisters seeming to come to an understanding, and Maggie now more comfortable around her sister and confident in herself. And it was all because of 2 quilts and the person's fear that they would become everyday quilts. Mending relationships is important and needed. While saying goodbye to her sister, Maggie smiled a real smile, not scared. 83. Her sister told her to make something of herself upon her leaving. Dee seems to have found her heritage and seems to have even become a little obsessed or crazed over it. But at least her opinion of her sister has been changed, as has Mama's. A relationship can mend. Everyone has had to deal with wounded relationships and hurt feelings. Every relationship can be healed, and it takes time and is something to work on every day. It is an everyday use. Now, before the grand finale paragraph, which is just a little blob, just want to say another side note, because I'm a teacher and I like to talk whatever. So basically you want 8 paragraphs, or at least that's how these papers are going. So you have 3 thoughts backed up with quotes and information. So that's like the meat of the assignment, and then you obviously talking. I like it, but it's hard. So you have the beginning, the introduction, and then you end with the conclusion, which is the last paragraph. So then you got those 6 paragraphs. So each thought is going to have 2 paragraphs. So what I like to do for 1 paragraph is do more straight from the text, and then the other one will be more my thoughts, and where the symbolism comes in, where my thoughts are a little bit twisted and turned from the evidence found in the text. It's different enough to be my own, but it still follows and complements the actual story or poem. So yeah. Oh, and just something else too. You really want to use, I think I said this, I'm sorry. There was a new hair. It's freshly dyed. Week tomorrow. Wow. But yeah, you really want to use the quotation numbers. The paragraph numbers, like where that quote comes from, you know? That's really good. It's like a works cited thing, which you should also include at the end. And mine is just a link and a little info about where it came from, like to the actual short story itself. That's great to put in there. And mine, I want it to be 6 pages, and it's actually barely, maybe it's just barely 4 actually. Oops. Oh well, that's okay, right? Okay, so why did Alice Walker title this short story Everyday Use? What does this title mean? What is being used every day? Competition and love are life lessons and feelings every human will experience in their life, and these things are used every day, whether it goes noticed or unnoticed. Competition and love are everyday things, and it's what a person does with those feelings that makes them useful, or hurtful and harmful, like in the case of the 2 sisters in this story. Alice Walker tells readers through her story that competition can be harmful and useful. The 2 sisters in everyday use are highly competitive with each other, all while trying to impress their mother and win her love and affection. Competition can be dangerous in a number of areas in a person's life. For the sisters, competition is straining the relationship that they have with their mother. They are competing for love. They love competing. Their everyday use is competition for love. Alice Walker teaches about competition in love and competition in love. 1. Comparison and competition interrupts relationships, twisting and turning them to negativity and pain. 2. People want to feel loved, and it hurts when they love. That love hurts when that love that we want isn't there. And then 3. Competitive thoughts and feelings and actions can always become resolved and mended. We just have to let it. And I like those last words. We just have to let it. Yes, it does address the audience. In this case, you guys right now. As we technically not supposed to do that. But hey, it's okay. And I feel like I've honestly and truly already read that to you. But that's impossible because this is week 8, and it's a new week, and it's fresh and new to you. I don't know. I hope I didn't read that. It just sounds kind of like I have. But I don't know. If I did, I'm sorry. That's like impossible. Okay. And I'm going to drink this water in front of you because I'm weird. Okay. So probably 15 minutes. Wow. Sorry, that was kind of long. But yeah, so we're halfway done with the semester. More than halfway done with the semester, which is exciting. Another class completed, basically. Getting closer to graduation, which means I'm getting closer to starting my life, like moving out, getting a job, teaching in a classroom, just moving on. So I'm excited and life is good and the future is bright, and I hope you know that in your life and with your life and involving your life. You have a life and it's yours, and I hope you know that and you can make it yours. And this is getting really corny and cheesy and I'm sorry, so I'm going to go.